Brazilian presidential candidate Luiz Ignacio da Silva received support from environmental activist Marina Silva to strengthen environment defense. Authorities of the Ukrainian region of Zaporizhzhia announced to be ready to organize a referendum to join Russia. Ethiopia's Tigray rebels announced they would accept a peace process with the federal authorities led by the African Union. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Brazilian presidential candidate Luiz Ignacio da Silva received support from environmental activist Marina Silva with the aim of strengthening the defense of the environment. Lula da Silva affirmed that during the meeting, both leaders officially supported the construction of proposals that help promote sustainability and preserve the environment. Silva's support for candidate Lula da Silva is related to the incorporation of an environmental agenda in his government program, including the creation of a national authority to combat climate change. The President of Ecuador, Guillermo Lasso, made public the questions that will be presented to the citizens in a popular consultation to inquire about the solution to the country's problems. In security matters, Ecuadorians will be asked if they agree with the military working with the police in the fight against drug trafficking and about the extradition of drug criminals to be judged according to the laws of the countries where they committed the crimes. Lasso pointed out that in another order, one of the questions will refer to the reduction of the number of members of the National Assembly and about the creation of a water protection subsystem. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador will hold a private meeting with the Secretary of State of the United States, Antony Blinken, as part of the 2022 high-level economic dialogue between both countries. Blinken arrived in Mexico Monday, accompanied by Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo and Assistant Trade Representative Jamie White, among other senior officials. The high-level forum will assess the progress of the strategic economic and trade priorities that both governments have agreed to promote regional economic development, poverty reduction, and inequality of populations. In addition, it is expected that they will address issues such as the treaty between Mexico, the United States, and Canada, and migration. The Mexican Army seized a heavy arsenal from organized crime. Officers seized more than 4,500 magazines, 3,000 cartridges of various calibers, and 22 firearms. The Secretary of Defense, Sedena, indicated that the seizure was carried out after security agencies obtained information that drug traffickers were using a tractor-trailer to store weapons in the location of Aguasarca in the state of Sonora. Sedena made the seized materials available to the competent authorities in order to carry out actions to confirm the quantity and characteristics of the weapons. Social and indigenous movements in Guatemala mobilized Monday in the country's capital to demand actions from the executive to address inflation, corruption, and the poor state of the road infrastructure. The demonstrations are heading towards the Plaza de la Constitución to demand an end to the criminalization of indigenous peoples, journalists, judges, and prosecutors. They will also ask the Public Prosecutor's Office to investigate and incarcerate corrupt officials. Demonstrators are also calling for the resignation of President Alejandro Giammattei and Attorney General Maria Consuelo Porras with the slogan 201 years of slavery, misery, and impoverishment of the people. The Argentinian justice continues its progress in the investigation into the attack against the vice president last September 1st outside her residence. Justice Maria Eugenia Capuchetti prepares a text to formally initiate the process against Fernando Sabac Montiel and his girlfriend Brenda Uliarte in the case of the attack on the Vice President Cristina Fernandez, while the opinion of Prosecutor Carlos Ripolo is also awaited. After preliminary inquiries, both defendants were charged with attempted homicide aggravated by the use of weapons, premeditation, and malice, while new evidence continues to come to light that further complicates Sabac Montiel's legal situation. Authorities extracted video from the memory card of Sabac's cell phone, which show he knew how to operate the Versa semi-automatic single-action .32 caliber weapon, with which he aimed at the face of the vice president. This evidence rules out the initial hypothesis that Sabac Montiel did not know how to use the gun, confirming the shot was not fired because the slide of the gun jammed. Former President Donald Trump's attorneys said Monday they opposed the U.S. Justice Department's request to continue to review classified documents seized by the FBI from his Florida state. In a court filing, his lawyers also asked U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon to require an independent arbiter called a special master to include the roughly 100 documents with classification markings in its review of more than 11,000 records recovered during the August 8th search at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach. Trump is under investigation for retaining government records, some of which were marked as highly classified at Mar-a-Lago after leaving office in January 2021. The government is also investigating possible obstruction of the probe. His lawyers said Trump disputes the Justice Department's claim that the 100 records in question are in fact classified, and they reminded Cannon that a president generally has broad powers to declassify records. Let us take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In Ukraine, it is reported that the Zaporizhzhia is ready to organize a referendum on unification with Russia. The head of the regional military civil administration, Yevgeny Balitsky, pointed out that the residents agreed that the region should be part of Moscow and that the admission is just a technical moment necessary to move forward. Balitsky also added that Russia is restoring the region's infrastructure, building roads and reactivating plants, paying social services, allowances and pensions. Likewise, a poll conducted last week showed that 71% of the people agree with this decision. Since last March, a large part of the Zaporizhzhia region has been under the control of Russian forces in the framework of their special military operation to demilitarize and denazify the western neighbor. "200 days into the Russian special military operation in Ukraine," Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov reiterated Monday in an interview with Rossiya 1 TV channel that Moscow is not against negotiations with Kiev.
I think our stance was expressed by the President Vladimir Putin a few weeks ago at another event. Addressing participants of the meeting, he said, "We're not against negotiations." When speaking of the Ukrainian situation, he said, "We do not refuse negotiations with Ukraine. But the longer it takes, the more difficult it is going to be to agree on anything."
President Vladimir Putin said on Monday that Russia is confidently handling the external pressure from the West. He concluded his opening speech by highlighting the importance of maintaining macroeconomic stability.
Russia is confidently handling the external pressure, essentially a financial and technological aggression coming from certain countries. The economic blitzkrieg tactics they were counting on haven't worked, which is obvious to everybody, including them. We have rapidly implemented efficient defensive measures, launched the mechanisms to support key economic sectors, systemic companies, as well as small and mid-sized businesses. Our priority is maintaining macroeconomic stability and resilience. I know that has been discussed day to day. We argue about what needs more attention, what needs more funding or more saving, creating a safety net, how to create it under the new conditions, and what a safety net is in these new conditions with the inevitable de-dollarization process underway.
Candidates from the ruling United Russia Party won regional and municipal elections in Russia over the weekend. Vice President of the Security Council Dmitry Medvedev noted that in the elections the Russian people showed that they voted for the party's program developed for citizens. According to Medvedev, the victory is accredited to the confidence of the voters, so he urged to continue to work to satisfy the citizens. The regional elections in the Eurasian giant are considered a sign of popular support for the ruling party. Experts consider them an endorsement by the population of President Vladimir Putin's domestic and international policy. On Monday, Sweden's electoral authorities called a tight lead for the right bloc appeared, which give the coalition a possible path to form a government for the first time in nearly a decade. Sunday's national election remained too close to call on Monday, with about 5% of electoral districts yet to be counted, but early results gave right-wing parties 175 of the 349 parliamentary seats, one more than the left bloc. Postal ballots abroad were still to be counted, and while they have historically tended to favor the right, this means a full preliminary result is not due until Wednesday, when all votes are counted again to provide a final tally. If the results are confirmed, Sweden, with a long progressive history, will become less open to immigrants and prone to conservative policies. Around 500 Uber Eats riders from Africa, many without French working papers, demonstrated in Paris on Monday after the company kicked 2,500 accounts off its restaurant delivery platform that allegedly used fake identities. Many said they had been working for years with Uber, claiming the company was well aware that its riders are often undocumented migrants who use borrowed ID to open their accounts. The US-based company is facing growing pressure across Europe to hire drivers outright as employees instead of independent contractors to respect the rights of gig economy workers. 2,500 of the roughly 60,000 accounts overall were identified as fraudulent, and drivers whose accounts were blocked could still appeal. Uber and other delivery service operators insist the workers are self-employed. And we have more news coming up after a financial break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the South. Iran's leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, announced the general policies of the country's 7th development plan focused on economy. The new plan was developed after consultation with the Islamic Republic System Discernment Council. The priority of the project is economic progress, accompanied by justice, and it defines in 26 articles the programs for 7 areas, among them infrastructure, science, technology, and education. It also estimates an average economic growth of 8% for the next 5 years. Iran reaffirmed Monday its readiness to cooperate with the UN nuclear watchdog after the agency said in a report it cannot assure the peaceful nature of Tehran's nuclear program. The finding last week by the International Atomic Energy Agency further complicated diplomatic efforts to revive a landmark 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and major powers, including the United States. Iran is ready to cooperate with the agency to clear up the false and unrealistic perceptions regarding its peaceful nuclear activities. Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani said in a press conference. Kanani also said no resolution was expected during this week's meeting, but warned that any further unconstructive action by the agency will again have unconstructive results. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi said he hoped that Iran would start cooperating as soon as possible.
Iran is ready to cooperate with the IAEA to clean up the false and real images regarding its peaceful nuclear activities of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But we stress that cooperation with the IAEA is both in the sense of rights and in the sense of Iran's fundamental Islamic obligations. Just as the IAEA has obligations, it has also rights. However, the Islamic Republic of Iran will adjust any reaction action according to the evolution that will happen in the IAEA.
On Monday, Ethiopia's Tigray rebels announced they would accept a peace process with the federal authorities led by the African Union. The rebels from the Tigray People's Liberation Front issued a statement announcing they are ready to abide by an immediate and mutually agreed cessation of hostilities in order to create a conducive atmosphere, while also decrying the closeness of African Union's mediator Olusegun Obasanjo to Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The Ethiopian government has previously said it was ready for unconditional talks and set up a 7-member peace committee that drew a proposal to start ceasefire talks with the rebels and end the war in the northern region. The AU and the Ethiopian Minister for Peace, Taye Dendea, welcomed the development. After almost 2 years of war in the northern region, millions of people have been displaced and thousands killed. teleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and unfaithfulness to our audience. We have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And you can also follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.